The Door Guy de Maupassant. Oh, exclaimed Carl Massuligny. The question of indulgent husbands is one of the most perplexing. I have seen many of them, of every sort, yet never could I form a definite opinion. I often wondered, are they truly blind, shrewdly perceptive, or simply devoid of character? I think they may be divided, roughly, into three groups. Of the blind we shall not speak. Indeed, they are not indulgent at all, they simply know nothing. They are good-natured simpletons, unable to see beyond the tips of their noses. What is curious is the ease with which men, every one of them, and even women all without exception, allow themselves to be deceived. We fall for any trick, whether played by children, friends, servants, or tradesmen. Man is trusting, and to detect, unravel, or destroy another's intrigue, we employ only a fraction of the cunning we so readily display when deceiving others ourselves. The clear-sighted husbands may be divided into three categories. The first are those who profit for their purse, their vanity, or some other advantage from the fact that their wives have lovers. They demand only the observance of outward propriety, and are satisfied with that. The second are the furious ones. Of them, a brilliant novel might be written. And finally, the weak, those who dread scandal. There are also the powerless, or rather the weary, who avoid the conjugal bed for fear of ataxia or apoplexy, and calmly yield their place to a friend. I myself knew one husband of the rarest type, who defended himself against the common misfortune in a most ingenious and unusual way. In Paris I became acquainted with a refined, worldly couple, received everywhere. The wife, tall, slender, lively, surrounded by admirers, enjoyed the reputation of a woman of adventures. I liked her wit, and it seemed she liked me as well. I began to court her more from curiosity than earnestness, and she responded with unmistakable encouragement. Soon we had reached tender glances, hand-clasps, those light caresses that precede the decisive step. Yet I hesitated. I am convinced that most worldly liaisons, even brief ones, are not worth the troubles they bring, nor the consequences they may entail. I was already weighing pleasures against inconveniences when I suddenly felt that her husband suspected something and was watching me. One evening, at a ball, as I whispered sweet nothings to her in a small drawing-room adjoining the dance hall, I noticed in the mirror the reflection of a face intently observing us. It was he. Our eyes met, and I saw him, still in that same mirror, turn and withdraw. I whispered, "Your husband is watching us." She seemed surprised. "My husband?" "Yes, he has already observed us several times." "Impossible." "Are you certain?" "Absolutely." "Strange. He is usually most courteous to my friends." "Perhaps he has guessed my love for you." "Nonsense. You are not the first to pay me court. Every woman of any note is surrounded by a whole flock of admirers." "Yes, but I love you truly." "Suppose so. But do husbands ever suspect such things?" "Then he is not jealous." "No, no." She reflected a moment, then added, "No. I have never noticed jealousy in him." "He has never, not once, spied upon you?" "No. I told you, he is very amiable with my friends." From that day my attentions grew more insistent. It was not so much the woman herself that interested me, as the possible jealousy of her husband. As for the wife, I judged her soberly. She possessed undeniable social charm, lively, cheerful, agreeable, though with a rather superficial mind. But I felt no true, profound fascination. As I said, she was merry, striking, perhaps even too elegant. How shall I put it more precisely? She was a decoration, not a dwelling. One day, when I was dining at their house and about to take my leave, her husband said to me. My dear friend, he said, addressing me now as one intimate, we shall soon be leaving for the country. Louise and I always take pleasure in welcoming those who are dear to us. Would you care to spend a month with us? It would be most kind of you. I was surprised, but I accepted. A month later I arrived at their estate of Vert Crescent, situated in Touraine. At the station, 5 kilometers from the chateau, they were already waiting for me. There were 3 of them, she, her husband, and a stranger who proved to be the Count de Maupassant. I was introduced, and the Count seemed genuinely pleased to make my acquaintance. As we trotted along the picturesque road bordered by green hedges, the strangest thoughts crowded my mind. I asked myself, what does all this mean? Surely the husband cannot be unaware of the sympathy between his wife and me. And yet he invites me, receives me as a close friend, as though saying, "Go on, my dear fellow, the way is open." And then, this introduction to the gentleman, clearly a fixture of the household, who seems about to depart, and who, like the husband, appears perfectly content with my arrival. Is he the predecessor, ready to retire? Perhaps. But if so, then there exists between these men a tacit agreement, one of those silent, disagreeable, yet convenient contracts so common in society. I was being offered admission to this fraternity as successor. Hands were extended to me, arms opened, doors and hearts thrown wide. And she? A mystery. She must understand everything, she cannot but know. And yet, I was utterly bewildered. Dinner passed merrily and warmly. Afterwards the husband and the Count sat down to cards, while I accompanied the hostess onto the porch to admire the moonlight. Nature seemed to awaken in her a peculiar sensibility, and I thought the moment of my happiness near. That evening she appeared to me especially charming. The country quiet lent her a tenderness, even a faint languor. Her tall, slender figure stood out beautifully against the stone steps, beside a great vase in which some plant was growing. I longed to draw her beneath the trees, to kneel at her feet, whispering words of love. Her husband called. "Louise." "Yes, my dear. You forgot the tea." "I am coming, my dear." We returned, and she prepared the tea. The men, having finished their game, clearly wished to sleep. We had to retire to our rooms. I lay awake long, and slept poorly. The next day, after breakfast, we set out in an open landau to view some ruins. I sat beside her, the husband and the Count opposite. All chatted lively and easily. I, an orphan, suddenly felt as though I had found a family, so comfortable was I among them. Suddenly she stretched her foot toward her husband's, and he, with gentle reproach, said, "Louise, I beg you, do not wear your old boots here. In the country there is no reason to dress worse than in Paris." I lowered my eyes. Indeed, she wore worn, shabby boots, and I noticed her stocking was carelessly drawn. She flushed and hid her foot beneath her dress. The Count gazed into the distance with an indifferent air, as though he had seen nothing. The husband offered me a cigar, and I lit it. For several days I could not manage to be alone with her. The husband invariably accompanied us. Yet he was most courteous to me. One morning, before breakfast, he came to my room and proposed a walk. We spoke of marriage. I uttered a few phrases about loneliness and how a woman's tenderness might make life truly beautiful. He suddenly interrupted. "My friend, do not speak of what you do not know. A woman who does not love you loves but briefly. All the coquetry that makes her enchanting while she is not yet yours vanishes the instant she becomes yours. And then, honest women, that is to say, our wives, they lack. In short, they are poor practitioners of their feminine craft." That is what I meant to say. He added nothing further, and I could not understand what he truly meant. A few days later he invited me one morning into his room to show me his collection of engravings. I settled into a chair opposite the massive door that separated his apartments from those of his wife. Behind it I heard footsteps, movement, and I thought nothing of the engravings, though from time to time I exclaimed, "Oh, splendid! Charming, charming." Suddenly he said, "And here, next door, I have a true rarity. I shall show you." He strode swiftly to the door, and both its panels flew open at once, like on a stage. In the spacious room, amid skirts, bodices, and collars strewn in disorder, stood a tall, gaunt, disheveled creature in an old, crumpled silk skirt clinging to bony hips. Before the mirror it was combing short, sparse blonde hair. Its elbows jutted sharply, and when it turned in fright to look at us, I saw beneath the plain linen blouse a flat chest, usually concealed in society by a false cotton bust. The husband, quite naturally, cried out, slammed the door, and with a distressed air exclaimed, "Oh, good heavens, what a fool I am! What a short-sighted dolt! My wife will never forgive me this blunder." And I, to confess, felt inclined to thank him. 3 days later I left their house, warmly pressing the hands of both gentlemen, and, with restrained, almost formal courtesy, kissing the hand of the hostess, who bade me farewell with marked coldness. Carl Massillon fell silent. Someone present asked, "And who then was that family friend?" "I do not know. And yet he was sincerely distressed that I departed so soon." If you are interested and want to hear new stories, subscribe, like, and be sure to leave a comment that you want to hear new stories.